The morning after my sister's graduation party, I found $23,000 of debt with my name on it. Not hers, mine. I sat in my car in the parking garage outside my apartment building for 40 minutes before I could make myself go inside. I kept refreshing the credit card app like the number would change. Like maybe I had read it wrong. Like maybe there was a comma somewhere I had missed, and it was actually $2,300, which would still be devastating but survivable. But no, the number stayed where it was, 23,000, 1430 and the transaction history told me everything I didn't want to know. A catering deposit at a venue in Scottsdale, a florist, a party supply warehouse, a boutique I recognized because my sister had sent me a link to it 2 weeks before and asked if I thought a dress was too much for a grad party. I had said it looked beautiful. I did not know she was going to charge it to me. I should back up. My name is Wren. I'm 31 years old. I work as a financial analyst for a mid-sized logistics company in Phoenix. I have a 401k that I actually contribute to. I have an emergency fund. I meal prep on Sundays. I am, by every external measure, the kind of person who has her life together. And I say that not to brag, because the whole point of this story is that having your life together means absolutely nothing if the people who raised you still see you as a resource. I grew up in Mesa. My parents divorced when I was 12, and my sister, I'll call her my sister because that's what she is even now, was 8. My mom worked 2 jobs for most of our childhood. I don't say that to excuse what happened later. I say it because it explains why I became who I became. When you watch someone you love run themselves ragged, you learn to be self-sufficient very early. You learn to not ask for things. You learn to take care of yourself so that you are one less thing for that person to worry about. I paid for my own college. Scholarships first, then a part-time job at a campus bookstore, then a second job waitressing on weekends. I graduated with $4,000 in debt, which I paid off in 14 months. I moved to Phoenix at 24 with 2 suitcases and a used Honda Civic. I was proud of that. I am still proud of that. My sister took a different path. Not a worse one. I want to be careful about that. Just different. She stayed close to home, went to a state school nearby, changed her major 3 times, and graduated at 26 instead of 22. My mom co-signed her student loans. My mom let her move back home after graduation, twice. I don't blame my sister for any of that either. The circumstances were what they were. But somewhere in those years, something shifted in how my family saw me versus how they saw her. I became the one who didn't need help, and she became the one who always would. The card was mine. That's the part I still can't fully explain to people without watching their faces go through 5 different expressions. It was a credit card in my name, with my social security number that I had opened 3 years ago when I was furnishing my apartment. I had a $25,000 limit because my credit score was excellent. I used it for big purchases and paid it off every month. I kept the physical card in a drawer in my desk, not in my wallet because I didn't want to use it casually. My mom knew about the card. I had mentioned it once during a family phone call when she was asking about credit scores and how to improve hers. I told her I had a card I barely used that was helping keep my utilization low. I thought I was sharing a tip. I did not understand until later that I had handed her information she filed away. 6 months before my sister's graduation party, my mom called me with a problem. She and my sister were planning a big celebration. Family, friends, a venue, the whole thing. And they were short on what they needed to pull it off. She asked if she could use my card just to hold the deposit, and she would pay it back before the statement closed. I said I didn't feel comfortable with that. She said she understood. The conversation ended. Or I thought it ended. 2 months later, she called again. This time the framing was different. She wasn't asking to borrow money. She was asking if she could be added as an authorized user on my account for emergencies. She said she was having trouble getting approved for a new card on her own, and she just wanted something available in case something came up. I had seen her struggle financially. I had watched her stress about car repairs and medical bills my whole life. I said yes. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself she would never actually use it. I know how that sounds now. The party was on a Saturday in May. My sister walked across the stage and got her degree in communications, and everyone cheered, and my mom cried, and I felt genuinely happy. We went to dinner after. I paid for my own meal and my mom's because my sister was the guest of honor and we didn't want her to worry about anything. I drove home to Phoenix that night feeling good. I didn't check the card out for 2 weeks. I know that sounds careless for someone who prides herself on financial awareness, but I was in the middle of a work project and I didn't look. And when I finally did, it was a Tuesday morning before a meeting and I almost dropped my phone. $23,000. I sat in my office bathroom for 10 minutes before I could compose myself enough to call the credit card company. They read me the transactions. Every single one was from the 2 weeks surrounding the party, the venue deposit, the catering, a hotel block for out-of-town guests, the florist, the dress, 2 more dresses, decorations, table linens, a photo booth rental. There was even a charge from a spa the day before the party that I can only assume was for my mom and my sister to get ready. I called my mom from the parking garage after work. I sat in my car and watched the other cars pull in and out, and I made myself breathe before I dialed. She answered on the second ring. She sounded relaxed, happy even. I told her I had seen the credit card charges. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The party was beautiful, wasn't it? Everyone had such a good time." I said, "Mom, $23,000. She said, "I know it's a lot, Wren, but you have good credit. It won't even affect you that much." I said, "That's not the point." She said, "I'm going to pay you back. I just need a little time. You know things have been tight." And then she said the thing that I have turned over in my mind every day since. She said, "You're the only one of us who can handle something like this. That's not a bad thing. That means we raised you right." I didn't say anything for a long time. I was looking at a concrete pillar. There was a sticker on it, one of those oval ones people put on cars, and it said, "I'd rather be hiking," and for some reason, that detail is burned into my memory completely. I said, "You raised me right, so now you can use my credit card without asking?" She said, "Wren, don't be dramatic." I hung up. I did not sleep well that night, or the night after. I called my sister on Wednesday. She picked up, which surprised me, and for about 30 seconds I thought maybe she didn't know. Maybe this was something our mom had done alone. But then she said, "Mom told me you were upset about the card," and I heard something in her voice that was not guilt. It was closer to tired, like she had been waiting for this conversation and was already bored by it. I said, "Did you know she was using my credit card to pay for everything?" She said, "I knew she had access to a card." I said, "It's my card, Kira. It's my credit card. She's an authorized user. That means every single dollar she spent is legally my responsibility." My sister was quiet. Then she said, "I mean, you can afford it more than we can. You know that. I want to try to explain what it feels like to hear that from your sibling, from someone you love, from someone whose graduation you drove 4 hours to attend. It does not feel like a betrayal in the dramatic cinematic sense. It feels more like someone confirming something you had suspected for a long time but kept refusing to believe. It feels like a door closing on a version of your family you had spent years hoping was real." I said, "That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works." She said, "I don't know what you want me to say, Wren." I said, "I want you to understand that this is not okay." She said she was sorry I felt that way. I got off the phone and sat on my kitchen floor for a while, not crying exactly, just still. My apartment is small, and I know every sound it makes. The refrigerator hum, the upstairs neighbor's footsteps, the way the heat clicks on in the morning. I sat with all of that and I tried to figure out what I was going to do. Here is what I knew. The debt was in my name. My mom was not going to pay it back, at least not on any timeline that would prevent me from accruing interest. My sister was not going to advocate for me, and if I didn't take action immediately, this was going to get worse. My credit score was already going to take a hit, depending on how the statement timing worked. I had plans to look into buying a condo in the next 18 months. $23,000 in unexpected debt was a direct threat to those plans. The first thing I did was call the credit card company again. I asked to remove my mom as an authorized user. They did it in about 5 minutes. The representative said, matter-of-factly, the authorized user will no longer have access to the account. Something about the simplicity of that sentence was almost funny. 4 months of her having access, 5 minutes to end it. Then I called a financial advisor I had worked with once before when I was setting up my IRA. I explained what happened. She was not shocked. She told me she had heard variations of this story more times than she could count. She helped me map out how long it would realistically take to pay down the balance without derailing my other financial goals, and what the interest implications would be, and whether I had any legal recourse. On that last point, she recommended I talk to an attorney. I made an appointment for the following week. The attorney's name was Brooke. She was patient and clear and did not treat me like I was overreacting. She said that because my mom had been an authorized user and not a co-signer or account holder, she technically had legal permission to use the card up to the credit limit, which meant there was no fraud in the traditional sense. She hadn't stolen the card, she had used access I had granted. Recovering the money would mean small claims court, and the outcome would depend on whether I had any documented agreement that she would pay the funds back. I did not. What I did have was a text exchange where I had said I didn't feel comfortable with her using the card for the party deposit, and she had said she understood. Brooke said that might be useful if I decided to pursue it. She also said, gently, that I should think carefully about what I actually wanted from the process, because litigation against family is long and expensive and rarely delivers the emotional closure people expect. I thought about it for several days. I thought about it while I was running in the mornings, and while I was sitting in meetings, and while I was standing in the cereal aisle at the grocery store for too long one Saturday. What I wanted was not really the money, though I wanted that too. What I wanted was for someone in my family to say, "We were wrong. What we did was wrong. You deserved better than this." I was not going to get that. I understood that, finally, on a Tuesday evening when I was eating leftover soup at my kitchen table, and my mom sent me a text that said, "Hope you're doing okay. Let me know if you need anything." Like she was checking in on a friend who had a bad week. Like nothing had happened at all. I did not file anything in small claims. Not because I wasn't angry, and not because I had given up, but because I did the math on what the process would cost me, in time, in stress, in the ongoing relationship damage, and decided that my energy was worth more than that. I negotiated. I sent my mom a formal written request for repayment, laid out clearly with a timeline and a total. I told her that if I did not receive the money, I would have to make decisions about contact that I did not want to make. She sent me $1,500 over the next 3 months. Then the payments stopped. I followed up twice. She said things were tight. I stopped following up. I paid off the remaining balance myself. It took 14 months. I picked up freelance consulting work on nights and weekends. I paused my retirement contributions above the employer match. I delayed the condo search by a year. Every one of those months was a reminder of the transaction, and I let myself feel angry about that, and then I let myself get back to work. My relationship with my family is, I don't know what word to use, quiet. I talk to my mom a few times a year. Holidays, birthdays. The conversations are surface level and short. I don't tell her about the condo I'm now actively looking at, or the raise I got last spring, or the fact that I have rebuilt my emergency fund and then some. Not because I'm punishing her, but because I have learned, finally, at 31, that sharing your life with someone requires them to have demonstrated that they'll treat it with care. My sister and I are more distant than we've ever been. She texted me happy birthday last year. I texted back thank you. That was most of it. Here's what I want to say to anyone who sees themselves in any part of this. The moment you become financially stable in a family that is not, you become a resource to some of them. Not all of them, and it doesn't mean they don't love you, but you become the fallback, the emergency fund, the person who can handle it. They will tell you this like it is a compliment. You're the strong one. You've always been so capable. You don't need help like the rest of us do. And if you're not careful, you'll believe them. You'll believe that your capability means your boundaries don't count, that your stability is communal property. It is not. Your financial stability is the result of your choices, your work, your sacrifices, your missed weekends, and your meal prep Sundays, and your boring Saturday nights when you could have gone out but you stayed in because you were working towards something. Nobody gets to claim that. Not your mom, not your sister, not anyone who loves you but hasn't earned the right to your resources. And this is the part that took me the longest to understand. Setting limits with family is not the same as abandoning them. I still love my mom. I still love my sister. I have chosen to protect myself from them, and those two things coexist. There was a version of me that thought I had to choose, love them or protect myself. And there was a long time when choosing to protect myself felt like failure, like I had given up on my family, like I was the cold one, the selfish one, the one who moved to Phoenix and forgot where she came from. I did not forget where I came from. I just decided it wasn't the only place I was allowed to go. A few months ago, I went to an open house for a condo about 2 miles from my office. 2 bedrooms, a little balcony that gets afternoon sun, a kitchen I would actually enjoy cooking in. The realtor was friendly and not pushy. I walked through the rooms by myself while she talked to another couple, and I stood in the second bedroom for a moment and thought about what it would become. A guest room, maybe. A home office. Something that was just mine to decide. I put in an offer the following week. I don't know if I'll get it. I might lose the bid. There might be a better one. But standing in that room, in a space I was looking at with money I had earned and rebuilt and protected on my own terms, that felt like something. Not triumph exactly. Not like I had won something. More like I had arrived somewhere I had been walking toward for a long time, even before I knew that was where I was headed. I think about the morning in the parking garage sometimes, the number on the screen, the cement pillar with the hiking sticker, the way I sat there for 40 minutes, not quite able to believe what was true. I believed it, eventually. And then I got to work. That's the whole story. Not dramatic, not a courtroom, not a big confrontation, not a scene where someone finally admits they were wrong. Just a woman who got handed a mess she didn't make and cleaned it up and decided what kind of access her family gets going forward and kept going. You are allowed to do that too. You are allowed to look at a situation and say, I did not create this, and I will not carry it forever. You are allowed to love people from a distance that keeps you safe. You are allowed to build something, a savings account, a credit score, a home, a life, and put your own name on the door and no one else's. Not because you're cold, not because you've given up, because you are worth protecting too. I've thought a lot about what made any of this possible, not just the debt, the whole pattern of it. The way my mom knew exactly which card to use. The way my sister said, you can afford it more than we can, like that settled the argument. None of that happened overnight. It was the result of years of me being available, years of me not pushing back, years of me believing that being capable meant being responsible for everyone else's problems too. That's the thing about cause and effect that nobody talks about in the context of family. We talk about it in terms of big dramatic moments. Someone does something wrong, consequences follow, but most of the time it's quieter than that. It's 100 small moments where you absorb something you shouldn't have to absorb. It's every time you covered a dinner bill without being asked. Every time you didn't say anything when a boundary got crossed because you didn't want to make it awkward. Every time you let someone believe that your stability was their safety net. Those moments accumulate. And eventually, someone charges $23,000 to your credit card and acts like you should be grateful for the opportunity to handle it. I don't say that to be harsh about my mom or Kira. I say it because understanding the full chain of events is the only way I've been able to stop feeling like a victim of something random. This wasn't random. This was the logical endpoint of a dynamic I had participated in building. That's a hard thing to sit with. It's also, weirdly, the thing that gave me the most agency. If I helped build it, I could also stop building it. What I had to develop, slowly and not gracefully, was a kind of intelligence about relationships that I genuinely did not have before this happened. I was financially literate. I knew how to budget and invest and protect myself from external risks. What I didn't know how to do was protect myself from the people I loved. That's a different skill. It requires you to hold two true things at once. I love this person, and I cannot let this person continue to have access to my life in this way. Most of us are never taught to do that. We're taught that love means openness, and distance means failure. I had to unlearn that completely. The discipline part, and this is the part I'm most proud of, was not the 14 months of paying down the balance, though that took real work. It was the discipline of not going backward, of not answering when my mom called in a tone that suggested she needed something, of not explaining myself more than once, of building the condo fund back up quietly without telling anyone in my family it existed because I had learned what happens when they know. Wren, a year ago, would have told you she had good values. She cared about her family. She showed up. She was generous. All of that was true. What she didn't understand yet was that values without limits aren't virtues, they're vulnerabilities. Real ethics includes knowing what you owe people and what you don't. Real generosity is chosen freely, not extracted. And real strength is not the ability to absorb damage indefinitely. It's the ability to recognize when absorbing damage has stopped being love and started being something else entirely. I'm still working on all of it. I don't have a perfect relationship with my family. I don't have a neat resolution. What I have is a condo offer pending, a credit card balance of 0, and a very clear sense of what I'm building and who gets to be part of it. That's enough. For right now, that is genuinely enough.